Hey guys, so this is part 2 of Java exception handling tutorial, and today we're going to see first of all that how this stack, that is the call stack, works when an exception occurs, right? So if suppose we are having multiple functions that are calling each other in some hierarchy, and then suddenly some exception occurs, so what is the default way in which JVM handles the exception? And the second thing is that what is going to be the stack trace, so what is it actually, and how actually we can also handle these exceptions at different levels, right? So this is what we're going to check today. So suppose I am having this main function from where I'm calling do something function. So I'm calling do something function, and this do something function, what it does basically is, so let me put a semicolon in here, and this do something is defined just above it. So public static void do something. And what does this do something does? So basically first of all it prints, this is line 1, and afterwards it calls another function which is do something more. So this is do something more function which we are calling from here, and then I want to print something else as well, which is this is line 2, right? This is line 2. So that's it. And afterwards let's define this do something more function as well. Do something more. So first of all let's have do something more function defined here, and inside this function what I'm going to do is I'm going to have these two system.out.println statements, right? In one of the statement I'll be defining line, this is line 3, right? So this is line 3, and let's enclose it inside these double quotes, and this is the other line which is this is line 4, right? So this is line 4 is another statement, and I will call from here do something even more, right? Do something even more. And inside this function I'm going to again have some 2 or 3 lines of code, and before that let's define it as a static method. So public static void and do something, that's it. And let's define now the do something more function. So let's copy it from here, the name, and let's define another public static void main function, void function, public static void, and the name of the function is known to us, and that's it. So here what we are going to do is we are going to say that hey sys.out this is line 5, and then we are going to throw some exception from here. So what we're going to do here is we are going to say that here some exception has to arrive. So let's do some illegal operation. For example, if we'll divide a number by 0, it is not supported in Java, and then sys out this is line 6, this is line 6, and hence our program is all defined. Now if we'll run this program, so you know about the call stack, how it behaves normally. So it simply do such things that first of all a main thread is initiated, in which we are basically, so first of all the main thread has been initiated, right? And inside this main thread is basically running this call stack, right? So inside this main thread, inside this call stack, we have this main function loaded, in which we are calling this do something function, right? Let's just see this out. So do something function is being called from here. So do something is loaded. What does this do something does? So do something has 3 lines to print. One is print this is line 1. So this is line 1 is printed, right? This is suppose our output console, right? So first line is executed, this is line 1, then another line is basically a function call, so we are waiting here, right? So on line number 2 we are stuck in this function, and because the function call has been made, so a new stack frame is loaded into the stack, and now do something more function has been loaded into it, so each of the lines will be executed, right? So line number 1 of do something more, that is this is line 4, will be printed. This is line 4. Then second line comes, which is a function call again, so we will wait here, right? We are waiting here until this function has been executed. So do something even more function is loaded into the stack frame, is loaded into the call stack, and now it also has 3 lines. So the first line is this is line 5. So first of all, this is line 5 is printed over here. Afterwards, an illegal operation, which you can also call as exception, has occurred because you are trying to divide a number by 0, which is not allowed in JVM. So now what will happen? An exception object will be made here, right? An exception object will be made here, and this exception object will basically have the message and stack trace, everything inside it, right? So this exception object is basically an arithmetic exception object, right? So this object has been prepared in this line and has been thrown. So now when you throw this object, what happens that do something even more is basically asked to handle this object, right? So basically JVM is asking this do something even more function that do you have any way of handling this exception, and do something even more will say that no, I don't have. So if you don't have, JVM will say you have to basically pop out from the stack, okay? You have to pop yourself out from the stack and give the control back to the caller function. So the caller function was do something more function. So in this second line we were waiting for some result to come, or either the control to come back to the do something more function, so that it can execute its further lines. But what happened, instead of the control we are given back a exception object. So we are given back an exception object. So now the JVM is asking this do something more function, do you have any way of handling this exception? Do you know any way? So the do something more function say that no, I don't know, because you can see that there is no try catch block in here also. So the do something more function says that no, I don't know how to handle it. So the JVM will say that okay, so you have to go out of the call stack too. So this has also been thrown out of the call stack, right? Now this exception object is given to the do something function. Now the JVM is asking do something if you know how to handle this exception, but do something also says that oh, no, I don't know. So this has also been thrown out. Then the main function is being asked that do you know how to handle this exception? So the main also don't know, so it is also thrown out of the call stack. Now this same object which has been prepared here is given back to the JVM. So the JVM is now asked that can you handle it? So the JVM says that yes, I can handle it. How do I handle the exception object? I basically print first of all the thread in which this exception has occurred. Then I will name the class of which exception type has occurred, right? So the class name for the exception, and for example arithmetic exception. Then what is the message, it is also being printed, and then the stack trace, that what was the stack looking like when this exception occurred, right? So the stack trace of the exception. This is how the JVM handles, right? The JVM prints all of these details, and this is how it handles any exception. So now if I'll run this program, let us see that what is the output of this program. So I will say simply that java c call stack dot java. So first of all we are compiling the program, and now I want to run it. So this is line 1, 3 and 5. They are basically the first lines, so they are executed successfully. But afterwards, after line 5, what happened? This exception object was introduced. Now as soon as it was introduced, the JVM said that your further lines will not be executed until this exception has not been handled, right? So nobody was capable of handling this exception, hence JVM handled it. And how does this JVM handle the exception? So first of all, it tells the thread in which this has occurred. Afterwards, it wrote the name of arithmetic exception, that is a type of exception which has occurred, then what is the message, and then the stack trace. So stack trace is saying that first of all, the exception, where does it occur? So it occurred at do something even more function, and afterwards it went to the do something more, but it was also not capable enough to handle it. Then it went to the do something function, then the main function, and nobody was capable enough, so I printed it like this. So this is how JVM handles the exception, right? So this is the default mechanism. Now if you want to introduce your own mechanism, suppose you want to say that I want to put a try catch here. So now you are defining a way. So you know that when you define a way, you can handle the program very gracefully, right? So we have this try catch block, and inside it we are saying that if from these lines, right? So here right now a single line is there, but there could be multiple lines as well. So we are saying that if from this line any exception occurs, so we'll catch it here. And right now we know that an exception of type arithmetic exception will occur, so we are catching it in here. And how do we handle it? So we are saying that we want to handle it just by simply printing that exception occurred, right? We just want to print this message, and that's it. This is our way of handling this exception. Now if we run this program, so even after the exception occurred, we know that we handled it gracefully, so all the lines will be executed now. So this is line 6, this is line 4, this is line 2, every line has been printed. So what is happening in this? Basically a stack, if we'll make a stack, we can actually see that how this time the exception is being handled. So first of all, this is our stack trace, sorry, this is our call stack, and first of all the main function is loaded into the stack, right? The stack frame of the main function. In this there is only one line, and this one line basically is saying that do something should be called now. So do something is called, right? So in do something we have 3 lines to be executed, so 1, 2 and 3. So first line is that this is line 1 should be printed, so we will print this is line 1. Afterwards do something more function is called, so we are waiting here. Now do something more function is called. In this also there are 3 lines. First line is this is line 3 which should be printed, so this is line 3. Afterwards do something even more is called, so this is completed. Now we are waiting on this line, right? Do something even more has been called, so do something even more is called now. And what is happening in this? So first line is printed, that is this is line 5. Afterwards there are try catch blocks. In try block we are saying that divide the number by 0, so of course here an exception will occur. So in line number 2, that is an exception has been created, right? This exception object has been created of type exception handling, and we are saying that we will catch it inside this arithmetic exception, that is the catch block. And of course an exception occurred, an object has been made, but in line number 3 it is basically handled. How are we handling it? So in line number 3 this message is printed, that is exception occurred, right? This line is printed, and afterwards try catch block has worked, and then the last line is this is line 6, so line number 4 is also executed. So this was line number 4. Once all the lines of this method has been executed and the exception has been handled, we can just say that you go out of the stack. After it will go out of the stack, what will happen next? We will come to this do something more function, and there is no exception object now, right, which do something more has to handle. So it will very easily execute this line number 3 of its line number 3, that is this is line 4. So this is line 4, is executed. This is line 4. This is line 4 here. This is line 6 was executed, and then this is line 4. Now it has also completed its execution, so we'll pop it out of the stack, and then do something function is there in which this call has been completed now. So the line number 3, which is this is line 2, is printed onto the console. This is line 2, and then all the functions of all the lines of this function are also executed. So we have this main left, and mains lines are also executed, so this will go out of the stack. But this time there is no exception object to be handled by the JVM. So this is the way in which we can handle the exception in some function. So even if you want, you can do one more thing, that instead of putting this try catch block inside this do something even more function where the exception is actually coming, we can do one more thing, that instead of handling it here, we had many places to handle it. So suppose we are saying that we want to handle it in do something function, so you can put this do something more function call into this try catch try block, because you know that if some exception will occur, it is at this line that the exception would come, right? So because system.out.println will not throw exception, right? So arithmetic exception e, and how do we handle it? So we want to print the stack trace of it, so we are saying print the stack trace of this particular exception, and that's it. This is the way we want to handle it. So what is this error coming? Alright, so we don't have to give this println statement here, because it can directly print it onto the console. So you just have to make a call to e.print stack trace, and now if you'll see, it will also show that what is the stack trace at the time when exception was handled. So first of all, let's run the program, and we are running it, and see the stack trace that is showing, that the stack trace at the time when this exception was handled was this: do something even more, do something more, do something, and then main. These were the functions that were inside the stack at the time of function calling, at the time of exception coming, right? So the time when exception occurred, these were the functions inside the stack trace. So that has been printed, and this is also the way in which exception has been handled. So this is basically the call stack, how it functions when an exception occurs, and this is it. We will discuss the all the other remaining topics inside our next video. So till then, please watch and subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, please do comment. Thank you.